Welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. 1 week away from the 2024 NFL Draft. I'm Johnny Venerable. He is Bo Brack. Damon Dog behind the mic. We are joined momentarily by NFL Insider Extraordinaire Benjamin Allbright. Going to be jumping on just a couple minutes. Bo, how we living 7 days out from 2024's landmark date thus far?
We're living quite well. How about a week and an hour? This thing's going to officially kick off. We're going to start to find some things out. We tried to find some things out today, and Monti Ossenfort, Jonathan Gannon said, get out of my face. I am going to just deflect everything here at the press conference, as you should do. I mean, you don't want to show your cards at this point, but we talked some trade down. We talked about some top prospects and potentially passing on those top prospects at the annual pre-draft press conference for the Arizona Cardinals today with their brain trust.
It's pretty wild. So much news to get to, and it's a perfect day to have Benjamin on because he, of course, covers the Denver Broncos primarily, but very much tapped into all 32 franchises. So the Broncos, whether or not they knew it this morning before Sean Payton had his pre-draft presser, made headlines with our friend, also friend of the program, Tony Pauline, via his site. Came out today, Bo Brack, and basically said that Sean Payton is ready to give up, quote unquote, a king's ransom for either the 4th or the 5th overall pick to get up, not necessarily with New England, that 4th or 5th spot. He primarily targeted the Cardinals and, of course, the Los Angeles Chargers. Pauline then goes on to say and confirms it would almost certainly cost Sean Payton, and he knows this, pick 12 this year, a 2025 first, and yeah, oh, by the way, all-pro cornerback, 24 years old, Patrick Surtain. And he is thus prepared to do that. Something that we have had dialogue on in the show. Hadn't been reported, but we had read the tea leaves that maybe Surtain would be available. We're going to ask Benjamin, of course, what he thinks. But again, Sean Payton, ultimate wild card, nothing to lose, didn't draft Surtain, hasn't paid Surtain. If he wants J.J. McCarthy, I mean, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a better trade package than that.
I mean, it still has the same issue as the Minnesota Vikings, but when you're looking at, the 3 potential trade packages, only one involves a 24-year-old all-pro at a premium position, and that's
Correct.
the Denver Broncos. But it puts you with the Vikings, where as far as this draft goes, you're going to be on the outside looking in, the peripheral of the top 10 of some real blue chip type prospects, but still in a very advantageous situation to really capitalize on the 2024 draft class. We had I was following Zach Stevens over at DNVR, fantastic follow. He was at Payton and Payton's pre-draft press conference, and Sean Payton asked about trading up. He said, quote, "It's certainly a possibility," and they didn't necessarily shy away from it. Payton said the Broncos, Vikings, and Raiders are teams that you could argue all need a quarterback, and that's very apparent to the entire league.
Let's ask the man himself. He joins us now. Benjamin Allbright, NFL Draft Insider, NFL Insider, friend of the program. We are roughly 7 days away, Benjamin, from the start of this thing. And you see Tony Pauline's comments this morning. I know you've been very adamant, if the Broncos can hedge it, they don't want to trade Patrick Surtain. So I'll give you the floor here, my friend. What are you hearing as it relates to the Broncos and their efforts to come up with pick 4 in the Arizona Cardinals?
Well, I'll say this. I know that the Broncos have made a call there to Arizona. And like any responsible general manager, they've ascertained the price tag to move up to various different spots and move back to various different spots. I was at the presser today. I did not get the vibe that they were in a rush to move up. I do believe they like J.J. McCarthy. I do. And I think if he fell far enough, I think that they would certainly look into that. I don't get the vibe that they're in a big hurry to move up. I still think they'll move back, to be honest with you. But we'll see. I noticed that Sean Payton did take a shot at that report today, making a quip about Timmy from Tucson or something like that. And how it had no legitimacy, to it. So, that is what it is. I'm not even 100% convinced that Arizona was going to trade out of 4. Last year when I was on this show and I told you guys they were trading back, I knew they trade back. This year, I'm not 100% they're trading back. I think they like their guy. And it's tough. The right offer comes along, yeah, they'll move back. But I'm not 100% convinced that they're moving back off of 4.
You know, the Broncos had their pre-draft press conference. So did Monti Ossenfort and the Cardinals. I was there, Benjamin. And basically what Ossenfort outlined was he had to be overwhelmed. He has to be overwhelmed. It has to be the right deal. It's not any deal. He's not going to just, take offers and say, hey, this is the best one. It has to, I'm sure, meet what he's asking for. But if you were to rank as far as, there's the Marvin Harrison Jr. Hold the liners here. They just want to stick and pick. But what is the biggest threat to that happening? Or which team is it, in your opinion? If the Broncos don't have enough, aren't willing to meet that asking price, who are the teams legitimately a threat to come up the draft board?
I think there's really 2 teams that are a threat to come up. I think that's Minnesota, obviously, and then I think that potentially the Giants are the other threat. And I use that in air quotes to come up there. I don't necessarily believe that. People have talked about the Raiders and all that, and I think the Raiders will take a quarterback in this draft. I just don't think they'll do it in the first round. So I think there's like 2 teams that are a threat there, really. Minnesota has all the capital in the world. The Giants aren't that far of a fall back to be able to do that. You trade with the Giants, you're still guaranteeing yourself one of Harrison or Nabers, both of which are going to be absolute studs, in the NFL. So I think those are the air quotes threats. If you're looking for who the probables are, I would suggest that Minnesota, the Giants, and then if it was cheap enough, I guess the Broncos. But I don't get the vibe the Broncos are coming up to 4 right now. I know they've made the calls, but I don't get that vibe.
What do you get the vibe with the Chargers, Benjamin? Let's say, hypothetically, the Arizona Cardinals can get a deal done. Let's say they do a quickie deal with the Giants. They go from 4 to 6. They get a couple day 2 picks. Do you think it's a home run, slam dunk, that the Chargers would take Marvin Harrison Jr., or do you believe Jim Harbaugh, with his, conservative, let's go line of scrimmage background, offensive tackle, maybe even a Brock Bowers, is there another player or 2 that you could watch at pick 5, or is it just simply they're going to go BPA with Harrison Jr.?
Maybe. I think Harrison or Nabers would be in play there. I think they want to trade out of 5. I do believe they want to trade out. I just don't know that there's necessarily a market there. I think that the market is if Arizona stays home at 4, then the market develops with Minnesota and New York to try to get to, Minnesota to get ahead of New York at 5. And all of a sudden you're in business there. I don't believe the Chargers would trade with the Broncos because I don't believe Jim Harbaugh is putting his boy in the division and having to play him twice. So I think Minnesota is really the only team at that point. So the Chargers don't have a ton of leverage. But I believe they do want to trade back. I do believe the Chargers want to continue improving the offensive line, and that they can get receivers later in a pretty deep receiver draft. Harbaugh can go get his boy Roman Wilson a little later, and add that to that room and go from there. We've already seen what they've done, through free agency, adding the Ravens running back core from yesteryear with the Gus Bus and J.K. Dobbins. So they're going to be a smash mouth. They're building a bully there. They want to be a smash mouth football team. We saw how that worked before, for Harbaugh with the Niners. So I suspect that if the opportunity presents itself, the Chargers would trade back. If they sit there, I know a lot of people have Alt penciled in there. I don't think Alt is their guy. I think they're on. I think they're on some of the other tackles there, and I think. I think at that point, if they're forced to make a choice, I think then they may take the receiver. If they're stuck there at 5, which to me suggests that either Harrison or Nabers would be the pick. I don't think it would be Odunze. I think he's the third. I think he's the third wide receiver to everybody. I don't think anybody that I'm aware of has him 1 or 2. So, and to be honest with you, I think the gap between Rome Odunze and Nabers and Harrison. I think he's closer to like Brian Thomas than he is to those 2. I know everybody kind of made it the big 3, but I think just amongst the people I talk to, that doesn't encompass everybody, obviously, but amongst the people I talk to, I feel more like he's closer to the other guys than the Brian Thomas Jr. than he is to like Nabers and Harrison. So we'll see. But I think the Giants, if it comes to the Giants, I think they'd prefer to have Nabers if they can't get McCarthy or May. So. That's kind of how that situation looks to kind of play out.
Feels like even before the Minnesota Vikings, you knew that the asking price to get up to 4 with the Arizona Cardinals was going to be 3 first-round picks, right? And we see that, and I don't think Monti Ossenfort is going to budge off of that, especially with the caliber of players on the board. But when we talk about the 6th overall, move up from 6 for the New York Giants, what do you believe the asking price would be for that deal to be made?
Not as much. I mean, you're not moving that far. You can still get your guy. I mean, obviously you're going to get an extra first rounder out of it. So you're probably, if you're the Giants, you're probably losing next year's first round draft pick. And then you're probably losing another pick in this draft. So you're probably, to flip flop like that, you're giving up a future first and then probably a later, there may be a pick swap in this draft, kind of thing. Like you might see them, I don't know, trade places early in a round, like the second or third, to give the Giants a more advantageous, pick, that kind of thing. That way you secure the first rounder and you get kind of the approximate point value. Things are exponential in those first 6 picks, right? It's exponential when you want to go up, how much it costs. But as you drop down, it exponentially goes down too. So going down 2 spots, you're not going to get quite the haul. You still get a little something, but you're not getting quite the haul that you get, like, if you could trick a Raiders or a Broncos into coming up to 4. And I'm using that word trick on purpose.
Yeah, it seems like Jaden Daniels is all but a commander at this point. Give me your walkthrough of what you make of the New England situation. When you were on with us at the draft, it was clear at the time that they wanted to trade down. And now if you talk to most people, you look at the sports books like Drake May, is he in line to become a New England Patriot? Like, fast forward to next week, are you going to be shocked if May doesn't go 3rd overall?
Yeah, I'd be pretty surprised. I mean, unless like Minnesota trades into there or something. But
right.
Look, I still believe that New England wants to trade back out of 3, but I also believe that the owner there wants the quarterback. I don't think that he's okay with going into the season with Jacoby Brissett. So I think Robert Kraft, I believe Robert Kraft has his thumb on the scale a little bit there. And so but Elliott Wolf, I mean, that's the son of Ron Wolf, right? That's you talk about a guy who would want to trade back, multiply the picks, have a bunch of ammo and rolling capital to be able to work with. We talked about this last year with Monti Ossenfort. This is the smartest thing you can do your first year as a general manager is trade back. So the war chest is always stocked and you got the flexibility. It is the smartest thing you can do in your first year as a GM. And so, I believe that there are people there that want to do that want to trade back, but I think they're probably going to wind up getting stymied by ownership unless they're just blown away by an offer that they can't refuse.
And also, was it Ron Wolf on, big on the quarterback position to think, early in this draft process that they would go a different position? Maybe Amar was a bit foolish as well. He probably never talked to his son ever again if he took a wide receiver 3rd overall in the start of a rebuild. But look, Monti Ossenfort looks like a genius right now. He's just stock full as far as draft capital goes. Let's have some fun, though, because I know that you're going to give us some good quotes on this as far as the belief, especially with the Vikings at their pre-draft press conference. We're talking about the different tiers of quarterback in this draft. And if they want to mess around, if they want to F around, they're going to find out that they're going to have to reach on some of these quarterbacks that you are hearing around league sources are not viewed as first rounders.
Well, okay. Funny how that stuff works, right? Remember how, what was it, the betting favorite to go at 4 last year was Will Levis, right up until 10 minutes before the draft, 10 minutes before the pick was in. So it's, he was like the prohibitive favorite. So, it's funny how some of this stuff works. And a lot of these guys, up until the last minute, you'll see that kind of stuff. The people I talk to don't believe it. They don't believe, basically, the people I talk to around the league, unless the Broncos and the Raiders take Nix and Penix, they don't believe they're going in the first round. Maybe somebody trades up at the end of the first round there to grab a Penix or whatever, but most of these people don't believe that. I mean, I talked to somebody who's widely respected. I forgot what day is today. So it'd been 3 days ago. And he said that, look, you could probably get Nix. If the Broncos don't take him, he's probably going to be there in the 3rd round, to be honest with you. He's like, a lot of these, the quarterbacks that you're looking at here, the desperation for quarterback, what happens is you start getting that arrogance, like, well, I can turn this guy into somebody. I'm not getting these guys, but I can turn this guy into something. And you start getting that, and it pushes some of these guys up that shouldn't necessarily be pushed up sometimes. But sometimes that's to their advantage, because if you look at guys that get drafted a little bit later in that first round, like Lamar Jackson, you fall into a good situation. You fall into a situation where there's no pressure on you. You got a good team and a great organization. He's like, so sometimes some of these quarterbacks can backdoor their way into situations like that. And that's not to denigrate Lamar Jackson at all. They're not to say he's a bad player, but that the situation is what I'm talking about. And then, we went on to have conversations about trading up for a quarterback and how if you don't have a ready-made team around them, that's usually a brutally bad idea. You go back and you look, and really the lone success story of team to trade up without having the team already built for the quarterback is Buffalo. And it took them a couple of years to get there, right? But most of the time when you're trading up to get the quarterback, if you got the team built, you're going to be successful. Look at Kansas City, right? Look at now. I say San Francisco. They traded all that up to get to Trey Lance, and they lucked out with Brock Purdy at the back door. But you get the idea. They had a ready-made. Those are ready-made journeymen. Carried the team till they built it. Alex Smith, Jimmy Garoppolo. They built the team out. Then they traded the capital to go get the quarterback. If you trade the capital before you get the team built, you bring a quarterback in. You got nothing around him. You got nothing to build with, and it's going to wind up looking bad.
Yeah, I think with New England, they're going to F around and find out just what that looks like, even with a Drake May on that roster, which is depleted. I think it attests to like what Kyler Murray was able to do with this franchise 2019, 2020, elevating a poor roster. Benjamin, let me ask you this, because you broke it down, I think, really well. Marvin Harrison Jr. is on a different tier than a lot of players in this draft. Like, a lot of people assume he's 1A or 1B with Nabers. Obviously, we think he's the best player to come out each of the last 2 years in the draft, respectfully. And if you want to include Caleb Williams, whatever. But so do NFL franchises, we heard Ossenfort speak today, understand the magnitude of, yeah, we can trade down, but we're passing on a talent that could come back to haunt us. I mean, this franchise is guilty of it. Passing on Adrian Peterson once upon a time, passing on Terrell Suggs. Like, do you feel like in particular with this top 10 of blue chippers, like it's in the Cardinals' best interest to say, you know what, maybe we shouldn't continue to try to double and triple down on a lot of draft capital we already have?
I think there's truth to that. I don't think teams view it as this could come back to bite us. This player could come back to bite us. They don't look at it that way. If it's your guy, they just make sure they're in a position to get their guy, and that's that. And I think more so than media or fans give teams credit, right?
Right.
They don't really, they don't risk it, like fans we're drafted in Madden, right? We're like, well, I can drop that in here. Maybe this guy will follow. Teams don't do like that. They'll move back a little bit, but they'll still think they're in the range to get their guy in most cases, with that kind of stuff. So that part of it, as far as the other part though, I mean, yeah, you don't want to mess around and lose your guy. You don't want to roll the dice just to pick up, a future seventh, and then, because, 5th through 7th round, those are dart throws anyway, right? I mean, at that point, you've run out of, you got your top 150 there, and then after that, you're just taking chances on character and athleticism and injury and whatever else. At that point, 5th through 7th to undrafted free agent guys. Really, most teams use 5th through 7th rounders on guys that are that had injuries, or that that had academic issues, used to be, or had or guys that they don't want to compete with on the UDFA market right after. The scramble right after. They'll draft them so they don't have to bid against somebody else on the UDFA market right after the draft. So, yeah, you want to multiply your draft capital, but you also want to be sensible about it. You don't want to move yourself out of position to get the guy that you wanted just to have extra lottery tickets later that may or may not turn into anything.
You got Broncos country tonight. Of course, you want to check it out. You can check it out on the iHeartRadio app. Benjamin Allbright, some fantastic insight. Follow him, Allbright NFL, on Twitter. Your last mock draft you did, and you got, of course, is it the Tuesday before the draft? You dropped your final mock?
It'll be the Wednesday before. It used to be the Tuesday before, and this is going to sound like arrogant and douchey, but I don't care. It used to be the Tuesday before, but the deadline for submitting for all these contests is like Wednesday night. Okay. And I started noticing people copying some of the stuff that I was doing. Like, I deliberately misspelled a name and watched somebody like paste that into their mock draft. So I finally got tired of that stuff. So I'm actually going to drop it the Wednesday morning after the submission deadline, so people can't, I used to do it Tuesday because I used to didn't care. But then when I, like I said, I saw people taking credit for work that wasn't theirs. That's when I started getting to the point of a little irritation. So I'm going to drop it on Wednesday from now on.
Yeah, sorry, man. That's my co-host's fault. He should have just at least switched it up a little bit.
Yeah, you could have used the spell check, man.
Yeah. Come on. But let me ask you this: in your last one, you had the Cardinals trading down and then back up.
What was it? If I had to guess today? Yeah, I like to do those little things. I think that was wasn't that right before the combine?
It was more recent than that. I want to say. Okay. What was it, 2 weeks ago? You did it on air.
Guess for today.
Yeah. Sorry.
We'd love a revised guess for today.
Oh man, if I had to put money on it today, I would say stay pat at 4 and take Marvin Harrison. I would say if I'm guessing today, if I had to guess today, and this will probably be the last time I do one of these before the draft, so you guys are getting this special. I would say that it goes Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Marvin Harrison, no trades. And then at 5, you got Minnesota jumping up in there to go get JJ McCarthy. Nabers goes 6 to the Giants. So there you go. You got my last little one right there. Mm-hmm. Have fun with it. 400
plus people that you just made happy in the chat. Thank you so much. So gracious with his time. NFL Insider, friend of the program, Benjamin Allbright. Check out his work on Twitter and Broncos Country tonight. Thank you so much, Benjamin.
Absolutely, guys. Take care.
See you, bud.
You got to love that. You got to love that. I saw in the chat, somebody said that, man, Bo just really wants to trade down. That's not true. It's not true.
You should be happy about that. People will take that.
Did you
and
see
the
me
positive that was
when he said that, when Benjamin said, I
Right.
think they're going to stick. Did I frown?
I assumed that it was you laughing at me, acting like a fool back here.
you were air punching.
I was.
But it was good air punching.
Darren says he knows his audience. I mean, he's the best. He told us last year, we literally were at the combine slobbering all over Will Anderson Jr. He comes on our show, and the Cardinals don't like Will Anderson Jr. They're not going to take him. And it was like, you just broke my child's favorite toy. It was just like, what is going on here? Of course they're going to take him. And they didn't. And he said, they're going to trade down. They're going to, by hook or by crook, they're going to try to trade down. And so, again, especially, and this is what I believe our show does better than anybody, with this new regime, minimal information is out there. So there are very few outlets and individuals you can trust. Steve Keim used to just tell everybody anything, right? Now it's very specific. And so Allbright came on our show in late February and March, said MHJ, and he's doubling down a week before the draft. That's good enough for me right now, Bo Brack.
You love to hear it. It's going to be an electric atmosphere out at the Gila River Resort and Casino at Wild Horse Pass. Ryan H., you can watch in slow motion, Bo's heart ripping in the two. What is this? All I am is just a simple reporter who just reports from the facility, from the general manager, from the head coach, from Johnny's sources. And I'm set up and I'm positioned as an enemy of Hold the Line. I just
why would we come on the show every day and talk about trades when we want MHJ here if we didn't believe that there was a possibility that a trade would happen? And again, like, we've got presser footage from your time today at the team facility, and like I still contend that, like, based on Ossenfort's answers, like, they're gonna be taking phone calls to the last minute. Like, you're gonna have to sweat this out here for the next 7+ days, Bo.
Yeah, it's one of when Damon would host PHNX bets, any of his info, you'd sweat it out to the very end as far as those bets, and if you were going to make any money off of them, it's tough. Look, I didn't say they were losers. It was just you would have to sweat them out, and that's what makes you feel alive, and this makes the entire Red Sea feel alive right now. When you're just in a great position, regardless of what you decide to do. And people are like, you're probably thinking what I mean, but when I say that I'm saying whatever you do in trade down, it's like, no, I don't know. But, we will get to the comments from Monti Ossenfort, and, it's not a motivated seller, but it's a seller that's open really to anything.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Great stuff from our guy, Benjamin Allbright here. And again, great stuff from our friends at BetMGM. First bet offer right now. The odds for Marvin Harrison Jr. to go 4th overall still in Arizona Cardinal fans' favor with our friends at BetMGM. But if you want to do a little emotional hedging, do so with BetMGM. And you can get JJ McCarthy right around plus 300. Use that BetMGM first bet offer. And while you're there, check out the Grand Slam Jackpot promotion. Every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday through the MLB season. It's brand new. It's a weekly bet and promotion. Place them your $10 on a wager of more than $10 and get a player to hit a home run every single weekend, Friday through Sunday. If that player hits a grand slam, you're going to win up to $50K in daily prizes or share it with those who also place the same bet. But again, how about that BetMGM first bet $1,500 offer? Super easy to get started. Download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on your iOS or Android device, or check them out at BetMGM.com. Love the full screen on my desktop here. Sign up and deposit at least $10 into your BetMGM Sportsbook account. Place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if it loses. So you bet 10, you win 10 in bonus bets, all the way up to $1,500. But again, got to sign up with BetMGM, newly created account. Got to use the bonus code PHNX. Again, the draft props are up and live. Go grab them right now. Check them out all through next week. Again, only 7 days left on those draft props. Check out the show notes for full details. Now listen to my guy Shane Diefenbach talk about it in the disclaimer.
Bets expire in 7 days. One new customer offer only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus only. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Bonus bets are non-withdrawable. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. See BetMGM.com for terms. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, North Carolina, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
It's a great day. Any day is actually to just go home, put your feet up, and pop an OG's. OG's Brands is Arizona's favorite cannabis kitchen. They have really locked in the ingredients to a delicious gummy. They've got the right amount of bounce in them. The flavors amazing. You figure out if you're fruits, creams, whatever type of gummy person you are. They've got something for you. How about the naturals? They've got the big OGs as well. It's 100 milligrams of THC and 10 perforated slices. One gigantic OGs. It's bigger than your face, but it's gonna make for some good times, some relaxing times, whatever you're looking for from your gummy. Freshly squeezed juice, live rosin, creating through the pressing process. It's very in depth, but it's unbelievable what they do and the care they take in creating their gummies. Check out all their fantastic products on their website, ogsbrands.com. That's OGEEZ brands.com. Find them in your local dispensary and follow them on your socials at OG's Brands. You got to be 21 years or older. And as I said, check out ogsbrands.com for more.
Like this video, goal as always, 500 likes for your boys. Just said goodbye to our boy Benjamin Allbright here. Started a little early today. Illa Dre, $1.99 super chat. Those MHJ jerseys are going to look nice. Absolutely. They will look nice. Number 18, red, white, and black. Again, don't print them up yet. This isn't Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Chicago, and Washington, respectfully. But, like, give me your updated odds. You hear Benjamin Allbright say that. I'm still very much of the mindset it's 50-50 at best at this point, that the Cardinals are going to take MHJ. They're going to trade down. You want to give some updated odds for the peeps 7 days out, Bo?
I'm going to go 51-49 in favor of a trade down.
Wow. Still in favor.
I mean, I was there. I was listening to Monti Ossenfort and the NFL news cycle. It hasn't stopped. It's only ramped up as far as the interested teams. I'm not going to completely turn a blind eye to what we've heard over the last couple of days as far as the New York Giants coming up hype train and trading up 2 spots for a quarterback. They seem like they've done all their homework and due diligence on J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah.
It feels like that them at the very least could put Monti Ossenfort in a position to say, yeah, it's worth it to me to accumulate assets and also get one of these big 3 receivers. And then you've got you've got the Vikings always looming, and it is nice to hear that. I mean, it sucks that an all-pro player potentially that was bandied about going, in a trade to get up into the top 5 is off the table. But picking 12, you talk about how picking 11, our good friend Coach Stark says F pick 12. 11. He'll say even worse to 12. So I think that the Giants thing is really where
can't even imagine what he'd say to 12.
Here's the difference, 13. Though. And we barely even touched on it in the first segment. Surtain is the highlighted player of that deal, right, regardless of whom you draft. Whereas pick 11 with the Vikings, those are all lottery tickets. It could be Byron Murphy, it could be Quinyon Mitchell, it could be Latu, right? It could be Xavier Worthy. At least with the Broncos proposed package by Tony Pauline, Patrick Surtain's coming to Arizona, CB1. Yes, he needs extended, but he's one of the best players in the NFL. That's your selling point to your fan base. But with 11, 23, and a future 1, all anybody cares about, that's not MHJ. That's not Marvin Harrison Jr. And so I do think that that's a big difference that we need to point out. And it's why, like I posted that on Twitter this morning, people went nuts over it. It does that. The Broncos package seems too good to be true. Like, I don't know how Sean Payton could make that deal. I mean, he could, he's in charge, and then walk the halls in Denver's facility and like look people in the eye. Like, for JJ McCarthy, come on.
Right. What's their organizational and roster infrastructure to support
not
JJ McCarthy? The Vikings, I think they either have it or they're close to having it. Mm-hmm. Where in the Giants don't, but they're a little bit. It's not going to cost them. Like, if they feel like JJ McCarthy is a franchise quarterback and it's going to cost them a pair of day 2s or a future first.
Although Benjamin thinks, future 1s in play, which is not the craziest thing in the world. By the way.
It's not.
Like, I know Giants fans would disagree.
As competitive as it is, and it's look. Let's take the Raiders probably off the table, right? I don't even know if Monty picks up the phone if he's on the clock.
I think Spencer Rattler is like the Vegas favorite to go to Vegas, by the way. So
Wish them the best.
Yes, good luck to you. Charlie Sinclair, $9.99, friend of the program, piggybacking off Ben. Los Angeles Charger GM presser today. He expects QBs to go 1, 2, 3, 4. LA Chargers feel like they have the number 1 pick, non-QBs. They'll draft best player available. Going to take a lot to trade down. GM said he's making the picks. Well, Charlie, we were talking about it.
Okay.
The tweet that
Cool. Okay, Joe.
of talking about Jim Harbaugh, would he feel comfortable taking a rival from the collegiate level? And of course, talking about MHJ and their GM/president laughed and kind of smirked. Yeah, I again, like if the Cardinals trade out of 4, like we would love to see Joe Alt or somebody like that go 5th. I mean, it's probably going to be MHJ.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's when my wife tells me and I make a suggestion and she says, okay, it's up to you. I'm usually like, if Jim makes a suggestion, just like my wife, we're usually going that direction.
Correct. Oh yeah, give me your input.
Yeah,
it's usually how it goes.
Yeah, it's a good thought, but we're doing this, and well, but still, look, Chargers are in a great spot, just like the Arizona Cardinals. They absolutely are. And it really some fascinating stuff coming out of LA in their new Brain Trust press conference today. Jeremy Mitchell, $1.99 super chat. Thanks, guys. Love the content. Thank you, Jeremy. We appreciate it, my guy.
Real quick, Bo, were you surprised Allbright was so adamant that Rome was the 3rd receiver? It was a little surprising.
Yeah.
Like thoroughly the 3rd receiver. I mean, Peter Schrager went on
he said he was more like Rome's in Brian Thomas Jr. Territory than he is in Malik Marvin territory.
Well, you've got Schrager going on every national TV program saying the 3 receivers are not getting out, not only the top 10, like the top 9. So, I mean, he can be number 3, but like he's still not making it to pick 11. Like I don't want people to think we'll just do the trade with Minnesota now.
Yeah.
So,
what else we got?
We got Plexi, $2 super chat. Bo talking like a guy who dropped a Kyler pass. Wow.
You're dead to me. Plexi, how dare you?
Gerard Reese, $2. Everyone talks a big game until you're on the clock. Well, I think everybody right now is talking out of both sides of their mouth until they're on the clock.
Have you seen Monti Ossenfort on the clock? He doesn't look like he backs down when he's on the clock. He becomes an absolute just bulldog on the phone.
Jalen Blair, $5 super chat. Trivia, who is the last wide receiver the Cardinals drafted and gave a significant second contract to? I think it's Larry Fitzgerald. It's not Steve Bresson, Early Doucette. It's not Christian Kirk. It's not Michael Floyd. It's not Andy Isabella. They didn't draft Hopkins. It's, it's probably Fitz. Really sad that that's the case. I love Fitz, but that's really sad. I'm sure it's Larry Fitzgerald.
Adam C. Elliott Wolf says they're open for business at 3.
Sure, Elliot.
Yeah, they had their pre-draft this morning. Like before we got out to the Cardinals facility, we were looking at the comments coming from Wolf and the crew there in Foxborough. But I mean, I think he's still in the position, and we'll get to the Monty comments. But like somebody would have to blow him away. Like, was
4
it
1s from the Vikings?
Yeah, Tom Curran said, was it 4? Yeah, so
the Vikings would have to get both ones this year and then one in each of the next 2 years. But you get Drake May instead of JJ McCarthy. Maybe that's worth it to them.
Yeah.
But if it's like, I'm sure Robert Kraft's sitting there like, well, if they're trading up for Drake May, why don't we just take Drake May? To which, like, their roster can't support it. But here's the thing. What have we been hearing from Kraft? It's like, I'm not picking this spot again. This is a one-off. Okay, Robert. Like, but to Ben's point, they don't want to go into this division this year with Jacoby Brissett while Josh Allen's, running, just destroying them year after year. So I think they'll take Drake May. I've succumbed to that.
Yeah. Sports Heroes feels like I'm feeling heat today. I'm not. It's okay.
What does that even mean?
This is a safe space for everybody. I honestly, you can hold the line. You can feel that I am partial to a trade down where I'm not, where I feel like the organization would probably take the trade down. But no, I'm not feeling anything.
It's nice that the people have finally opened their eyes to the man that is Bo Brack, the man that stands before us. He's the enemy.
Oh, jeez. This is all you're doing.
Damn, he's our enemy.
JJ McCarthy, the Vikings.
Just a shit stir. Just in there. Just stirring it up.
Let's talk about Ossenfort, because
Okay.
I feel like that almost got buried today with Pauline's report, and then we were excited about having Benjamin on, and then, oh yeah, the Cardinals talked today, and Ossenfort, I thought, was he candid? Yes. But like, I also thought like he was kind of giving some tea leaves to some folks, like, guys, don't be surprised if we do X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he didn't back down from his neon sign comment a couple weeks ago. Yeah, let's take a listen to some of the things that Monti was saying out there in Tempe at their facility, along with head coach Jonathan Gannon. Let's listen to this one first. He gives an analogy as far as what he means, or when he says he's taking calls on the 4th overall pick.
We've had talks with multiple teams, and multiple teams have checked in with us. And I think the way I look at it is like, guys, I love my house. I love where I live. Okay, my wife loves where we live. If all of a sudden there's a knock on my door and someone's gonna offer me something, and I'm gonna look and see what they're offering me, and if I open that up and it's something I'm not expecting, hey Shannon, let's go, pack up, it's time to roll. Okay, so I think that happens beforehand. It happens on the clock. But I think different teams have different motivations, but we'll see how this one plays out next week.
I mean, he's not going to turn down any phone calls. He's going to listen, but it's somebody who's open to a trade down, not motivated to a trade down.
Yeah.
But when you also take into consideration how many teams are trying to get up and that they're desperate, that's somebody that's willing to blow you away and overwhelm you with an offer that's going to have you rounding up your family and moving out of your house.
Well, here's what we know. We know Marvin Harrison Jr. is their guy. And we've been saying that for 3 months. Peter Schrager went on Pat McAfee today and said, I'm not breaking news here, they would pick Marvin Harrison Jr. at pick 4. So that tells everybody that Marvin Harrison Jr. is their number 1 player. Okay, so knowing Ossenfort, how far can he go down potentially to still get the player of MHJ's caliber? It's not 11, it's 6. If you were to go down from 4 to 6, you have a chance at MHJ, and if not, you take Malik Nabers or Rome Odunze. That to me is where we've gotten to at this point. Because Schrager also then went on to mention, Bo, that the Cardinals don't want to be in a position, and Tony Pauline outlined this as well. So this is making its rounds.
Mm-hmm.
The Cardinals are not going to trade down just to accumulate more picks.
Right.
Like they kind of did that last year, although they came up for Paris. And this is, if you're hesitant about all this, just take solace in knowing Ossenfort, and I think his comments today spoke to that, Bo, that you posted. He wants to remain in a position to get one of the best players in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
He does not want to water this down. And if it's his, at the end of the day, if he has to take MHJ, he's going to. So, like, number one, I listen to those comments, and I'm like, thank God this is not Steve Keim. I trust this man. I trust his reputation and his resume from last year. And number two is, if they trade down, it's going to be of significance. A first next year, 2 2s, and they're still going to get one of the best 5 non-QBs in this draft, like 3 to 5. And that as a Cardinal fan, that makes you feel good, because whatever if it's not Marvin, it's going to be Malik or Rome plus a bunch of picks.
Right.
Like you ought to feel pretty good about that. I know we've got the hold the line crew, but guys, they're not trading down to the mid-teens and just watering this down. They are sticking in the top 10. I firmly believe that.
They have their price.
Right.
That they'll even, take conversations on, right? And you got to start there. And if you don't even do that, which is, and he sets and he's like, here's my number. I'm going to slide it across the table. You might be turned off by it, but that's where I stand. And if you want to talk, we'll talk. But if you're not willing to start there, we're not making a deal. And it really feels like that's why the Vikings have cooled by the very real asking price of the base on of 3 first rounders, including the 2 this year and a future first. So, Monti Ossenfort's just not like, it does give you a little confidence going forward. Like, he's just not there to wheel and deal. Like, you've seen him do it one draft, but that's a sample size. Like he is in the he's going to be a different general manager than the guys that he worked with in New England and the guys that came from that New England organization that went on to do some very similar things the Patriot way. Monti Ossenfort's got his own, he's going to his own beat here. Obviously, asset accumulation is a big part of this, but it's a big part of just most successful organizations. But what Daniel Jeremiah said yesterday, like they have to, in order to really cash in this talent-rich draft, you need to take blue chip players. And Monti Ossenfort's very aware of that.
I can't remember who did this. I think it was Traeger or Jeremiah or somebody basically said, like, we do draft coverage every year. And there are a lot of drafts where we're just like, we pub up guys, but in deep down, we know, like, this isn't a very good class. It's an average class. I think a lot of people do with last year's class. This is a stud class. This is a class where you're talking about 8 to 10 guys that are going to go early. They're going to become some of the best players in the NFL, star players. And for Monti Ossenfort, that's not worth watering down. And I think that that's always been the antithesis of the hold the line movement. It's like, why are we adding more picks in future years when we can't decipher where we be picking more picks for the sake of having picks? But I do think, Bo, it's interesting. I don't know if we have this quote. If not, it's on our Twitter. I love the analogy of you could always want more picks. You can always welcome more picks. But then he catches himself and he says what? He says, we need players. And I took that as we need studs. We need dogs. We need ballers. We need playmakers, right? They got whooped by the Niners and the LA Rams this year. They need stars. They don't have enough. They don't have enough top-end star players to help carry them. Malik Nabers, Rome Odunze, and certainly Marvin Harrison Jr., they excel at that. They can help carry you to postseasons and wild card bursts and get you into the playoffs damn near as an NFC West champion. Like, we can muddle this down to the point where you're adding a bunch of players every year that contribute. But like when push comes to shove, and we saw it last year, I mean, how many times did the Cardinals lose 1-possession games, 2-possession games, where a singular player could make the difference? So this team won 4 games last year. They need a lot of help. And I think Ossenfort continues to emphasize that. But when there's a singular player entity in the top 10 that can check all the boxes for you, and that everybody universally believes is special, like, it's going to take a lot to pivot off of that.
Yeah. There's a couple of comments in here from Vikings fans I want to highlight. We don't have to bring them up here on the screen. It's Aaron Gibson saying, ha, 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 you guys are twisting yourselves into pretzels doing mental gymnastics to convince yourselves you're not trading with the Vikings. It will be funny if the Vikings are picking at 4 on draft day. We're not saying they're not making a deal with the Vikings. It just has to be the right price. They're not gonna budge on the asking price. It's 3 firsts and some change. So if they are picking 4th, then they met the asking price. And then you've got is the faithful saying, I'm sure the Vikings laughed at the asking price. Who's gonna get the last laugh? I mean, if the Vikings come out of this draft with and trying to spend Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix as their franchise quarterback, and they've started aggressive trying to come up the draft board in 2 consecutive drafts and came away empty-handed. You're staring down Sam Darnold as your starting quarterback, and you're saying that you're going to laugh at us? Sam Darnold? That 3 organizations have
Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, Jared Goff in your division.
Who's going to laugh at that? You guys are going to be, it's like Paul Allen said, it's going to be toxic, and it should be.
Well, I think we've already seen, did the Vikings, is it the meme, I've made a huge mistake? I think they've made a huge mistake. I think they've set themselves up to be ridiculed, to be chastised. And like, you talk about a touch and go situation for Cardinal fans the next 7 days, that pales in comparison to the folks out in Minneapolis shitting their pants right now, basically saying like, what if we don't give up 4 first-round picks? What's going to happen to us? Like, number one, you're going to get backlash anyway if you give up premium picks for J.J. McCarthy. Like, you're getting the 4th quarterback in this class, and you're giving up 3 ones to do it. And then secondly, if you don't do that, like as my co-host has outlined many times on this show, your GM openly came out in a press conference and said, yeah, there are tiers to some of these QBs, and some of them need to be propped up. Propped up Bo Nix, who spent like 7 years in college, has a rag arm at the Senior Bowl, and Michael Penix, who we like, multiple surgeries. It's just, that's the reality of the situation. Maybe you can hit on a Dak Prescott-esque type of player, but I mean, why did you get 2 first-rounders if you're not going to use them? because you made a mistake. The Vikings, to me, there's no team under more pressure. But listen, at the end of the day, all the Giants have to do is say, hey, we're gonna give you a first next year. We're gonna give you 2 2s. Then the game's over. Yeah. Minnesota, you're picking 11th. You have no leverage.
0. And the spin, if you want to call it this, but the majority of our audience, you walk away from any negotiation and you stick and pick 4th overall.
See ya.
Marvin Harrison Jr. You're in an unbelievable spot.
See ya.
You're not sitting there trying to, polish a turd and trying to tell him it's a franchise quarterback. Here's your 24-year-old rookie franchise quarterback with 2 serious knee injuries.
By the time he's due for a second contract, he's going to be, 30 years old. You know how old Kyler Murray was when he got a second contract? Like 25, 24 years old. Great stuff. Let's get to these super chats here. Jalen Blair, $5. It is Fitz. Preston played out his 3-year deal. Then you got 1 year, $2 million. Not significant. He went to Kansas City with Todd Haley. Sad stat. We should definitely draft MHJ.
I think John Brown was on his way, and then he had medical issues down like at the end of his tenure with the Cardinals, and they just parted ways. They mutually parted ways, and Smoke went on to have some decent seasons for the Buffalo Bills after that. But he was probably the only one worthy, and he was the only Steve Keim draft pick that went over 1,000 yards receiving.
Cool. Jared Reese, $5. Denver will cave. Surtain, 12 and 25 first. We overpay to move up for Rome. Move up to get Newton. Move down from 35 for JPP and other in the mid-second.
Man,
a lot of cooking being done there.
Can you imagine though? Like if we wrap up our first round draft coverage and the Arizona Cardinals come away with Patrick Surtain II, Rome Odunze, and Johnny Newton. Does anybody have a problem with that?
No.
Okay.
Again, give me a top 3 receiver.
Okay.
And if it's not Marvin, it better come with additional draft capital. I mean, Malik Nabers, Rome Odunze, and a couple 2s or a first. Pretty good. Pretty good for these teams that are hoping and praying one of those 2 players falls to them. I mean, think about it too. And I think it's important to contextualize this. The Cardinals
green guy Castro, he says, yeah, it's not MHJ. Okay, yeah, that's the only problem with it.
The Cardinals were really close to winning how many games last year? I think like 5 or 6 games. Let's say they beat the Giants, who they were beaten by 20 points, and they beat the Seahawks in the finale, and they're picking 6th. Or excuse me, they have 6 wins. They're probably picking like 7, 8, or 9. And we're not talking about MHJ. So I do think we have to contextualize it. They didn't have their franchise quarterback last year. They are in a unique position where they weren't really the 4th worst team in the NFL. They played almost 500 football. This is a gift to be picking 4th overall. I don't expect them to be in the spot again. Now, could they pick top 10? Hopefully not. But you see what I'm saying? They're a team, the Cardinals are a better spot than the Titans right now. I think they're in a better spot than the Falcons right now, even with Kirk Cousins and some of these other the Jets. But they're picking 4th, so they have to make the most of that pick. And if that's MHJ, that's MHJ. But if it's trading down 2 spots for 2 2s and Malik Nabers, when you could have easily been picking 6 overall, if Matt Prater makes a field goal, you gotta hash all that out. You gotta go through all those scenarios.
Yeah, Monti Ossenfort basically said they've got 95 to 98% of their draft board complete. They're going to go back and do some work after they wasted some time with the media and answered our useless questions. But him and Jonathan Gann, we're going to finalize it. And then the rest of the time, basically between now and draft night, a week from now, they're going to go through scenarios, every scenario, because it's not going to be Monti Ossenfort reacting to be, something that he didn't anticipate happening when it actually happens for the first time on Thursday night. And that's the big difference. He's prepared. He's going through every different scenario. He's picking Jonathan Gannon's brain. He had a lot of really nice things to say about Dave Sears and how much work he puts into this draft process. And, they're going to start going through it and make sure that they're one of the most, if not the most prepared team the next, for the 3 days of the draft.
Well, he talked about it today. We have this bite. It's what's in the best interest of the team. And if that's MHJ, then that's MHJ. And they'll listen to the fans. But again, Like they're going to make that decision here within a week's time.
Hey, our fans are very important to us, and I think ultimately what I can promise and what I always promise is we're going to do what's best for the team. We're going to do what's best for the team this year and then also long term. And so, I guess everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got favorites, and that goes with the territory. So, I think ultimately JG talked about this at length. Like, no matter what decision it is, whether it's draft or free agency or cutting a player or who makes a practice squad, every decision that we make, it will always be what's in the best interest of the team.
Yeah. I mean, what was the question that got up to that?
I asked him, I said, Monty is
Johnny and Monty.
The fan base has voiced that they're in love with a prospect. What's your one prospect in particular? What's your message to them as far as really falling in love?
He knew what you were saying, by the way. He knew which prospect.
Okay. You say, hey, Marvin Harrison Jr., what's your message to the fans that are, give me Marvin or give me death? And his answer was, we're always just going to do what's in the best interest of the team. Whether it's, potentially passing on Marvin Harrison Jr. for a trade out or, putting somebody on a practice squad or making a trade. It's all with the best interest of the team in mind.
Well, I do think I love how he prefaces it, because it's always like, if you're going to give somebody bad news, have you ever heard the sandwich analogy? It's like, start with a compliment, then mix in the stuff that people don't want to hear, and then end with a compliment. And that's kind of what I love our fans, man.
Yeah.
I really do. We're going to do what's in the best interest of the team. But I love our fans. And it's just, okay, all right. Listen, if I listened to that presser today through you and the clips on PHNX Cardinals, and I came away thinking, I think they're going to still trade the pick. But then you got Benjamin Allbright coming on our show saying, I think they're going to stick and pick. Peter Schrager, who outlined, and he confirmed it, like Marv's their guy, but they're going to have too many offers.
Yeah.
Like, is that going to be a reality? They're just going to have too many offers where they're just going to be like, hey, Giants, Malik Nabers has got to be our guy.
And Sports Hero saying, Monty's killing us softly. And we'll play this clip too. It's like, when you want to know a timeline, I asked Monti Ossenfort, my question really was, is there more interest with this pick than there was last year? How does it compare? And this was his answer. And he kind of gave us he expects things more to ramp up next week.
No, it's hard to say. I would say really those conversations will really probably pick up next week. So, we had plenty of conversations already, more just surface level. And similar to last year, you really start to drill down on those the week of the draft and, really the Wednesday and Thursday before opening night there.
Wednesday, Thursday. So, take it all the way to the goal line, and this thing could be ripped from our grasp right at the end, right at the buzzer.
It'd be one of the cruelest things ever done to Cardinals.
It would be brutal. And we're going to be there with 100 plus people, just great people who bought tickets to the draft party, and we're all going to witness it together. But
we just had our hockey team ripped from us. Like, that analogy is going to be used next week if Marvin's ripped away while they're on the clock. Just be prepared for that. Like, I love Nabers and Odunze. If they get them at 6th grade, if they opt to trade out with, let's just say they got 3 minutes left, and then you think it's going to be the pick is in, and it's the little icon, the little graphic that says trade, people are going to lose their shit in this town. So I hope Ossenfort has
wait for the details of the deal.
Doesn't matter.
Something that you can stomach.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It'll be tough. It'll be tough.
It is. It's going to be a gut punch, no doubt.
Ossenfort, you have a responsibility. We just lost our hockey team. You just take one for the team, all right? Somebody, the collective mind.
Did I just ask them like that? Hey, just preface the hockey team like, hey,
a real reporter would, a real Big J reporter would.
Hey, the sports fans around here they just lost their hockey team. Are you willing to disappoint them again next week? Thoughts?
Gannon would have been like, I'm sorry, Monty. I know Bo. He's usually well-intended. Get this asshole out of here. Let's get back to some of these super chats. But before we do, I want to tell you guys about our friends at Desert Financial Credit Union. Cards aren't kicking them out like they would Bo Brack, because it's the official credit union of the Arizona Cardinals. That is Desert Financial and the Venerable household and PHNX Sports. For more than 84 years, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union, dedicating to creating exceptional experiences by giving back to the community and providing financial solutions that make life better. And again, guys, if you need some financial acumen, some experience, you know where to go. They've got checking accounts that does Desert Financial, savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and more. Plus, if you're an Arizona sports fan, there's no better place to do your banking than Desert Financial Credit Union. Rep the Red Sea with the Arizona Cardinal Visa debit card. Show your team spirit. I've got one. Pick one up online for free right now. Open up a free checking account, desertfinancial.com/CardinalsBo to get started. It takes a couple of minutes to sign up. Get your debit card a few days after the fact. One of the best financial decisions I made was making the move over to Desert Financial here in the Valley. Do the same. You won't regret it.
Unbelievable breaking news. One of the other football teams in Arizona has some real tough news, and we'll tell you about it in just a minute. But Circle K, the inner circle, I was on empty this morning, and I just right down the street from my house pulled in the Circle K and put in my phone number and started to save immediately at the pump with our friends over at Circle K. Already some of the lowest priced gas in the Valley. You could save even more. Saves 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. All you have to do is create a free account. That's right, it's free. And then you'll start saving 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups, 3 cents to 5 cents per gallon every day. Every 6, you get a free selection on Circle K products, pizza, coffee, ice cold fountain drinks, those Polar Pops. Oh, they're fantastic. Fill them up. Join Inner Circle today for free by downloading the Circle K app. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Unbelievable news coming out of Tempe.
What happened? You're teasing it. What's going on here?
Jaden Machada, the quarterback, big get for the team last year, reportedly entering the transfer portal.
Oh, my
Sun
goodness.
Devils. Our friends over at PHNX Sun Devils will give you the latest. Hop over there
It's
after
a
you're
damn
done here.
shame. Well,
Kenny Dillingham, someone will get an elite talent and a great person, always be rooting for you. Are you rooting for him, Kenny? Or do we have a little breakup there?
Our resident Wildcat, Damon.
I think I would be in tears. I'd probably walk off the set if there was like breaking news that Fafita entered the portal. But thank God that'll never happen to us because he's too good of a guy.
It's going to be a big what if.
According to Damon.
You got very little from was it a 5-star, right? He was a 5-star recruit?
Rashada?
Yeah.
I think he might have been like a really, really high 4-star, according to most sites, but like a top 10 quarterback recruit.
Man, big blow Sun Devil program. But let's get to these super chats. For everybody's crushing it in the chat. Hit that like button, over 600 plus. Watching this show.
I like Kenny Dillingham. I don't know what happened there.
I do too.
I think he's a good
he's a good guy for sure. I think he means that genuinely.
I'm sure he does. I'm just being a loon. John, $5. Trading down will be easier for trading back up for a top 3 receiver. Who's the trade up partner? I mean, ideally, John, nobody, because you're dealing with the Giants. I will be shocked beyond disbelief if Ossenfort can orchestrate the Vikings deal for 3 ones and then go from 11 to 7, 8, 9. If he can, good for him. But that's a lot of work to do. And that's a ton of work to do while on the clock. I know he did it last year, but this is so many more moving parts, variables. That's why I've always been of the mindset, Bo. If he's going to do the Vikings deal, that would need to happen before the draft starts. You'd have to do that the day before, the day of in the morning, and then use the rest of your time to say, hey, Atlanta, hey, Tennessee, hey, Chicago, what do you need from us? We got to come up to get Rome or Malik. But you just put the fear of not having one of those 3 receivers in play. You're stuck at the altar, and I just don't think that's something they want to do.
No, it would be tough. It'd be a tough way to go through a first round without top tier talent, addressing a big glaring need of this organization. When you saw this offense play at a top 10 level clip since the return of Kyler Murray, and then you didn't significantly improve the wide receiver room. You moved off of guys that you feel like could be addition by subtraction, but you didn't add anybody. You didn't get some big time talent in the door. But Baldy says he believes that they're going to add a pair of at least 2 receivers, I guess. Which it's necessary, right? Because you can count on one hand the amount of wide receivers they have really like on the active roster. And it's, Greg Dortch, it's Zach Pascal, it's Michael Wilson, and Chris Moore. You have 4 guys.
Not good enough. I love that group. I love the 2 starting receivers. You got to get, I don't want to say an alpha because it's disrespectful. You got to get a 1 and then let everybody else be elevated by said 1. Jeremy Mitchell's back, $4.99. Thank you, Jeremy. I think I'm fine with whatever deal Monty does. How about that? I would love to have my boy from Ohio State, but Monty can cook. I think just like go watch the clips on PHNX Cardinals. Go watch the full presser. Just like, this guy's not dicking around here. This is not somebody that's going to take Andy Isabella over DK Metcalf.
Right.
This is not somebody that's going to draft players respectfully from Grambling State in the top 60, 70 picks. This is not somebody who is going to take non-premium positions. Like, the guy literally last year was like, they love Paris. Why? Left tackle, Ohio State, best tackle in the draft. Like, what do they need? They need a receiver. They're going to get a wideout. We just, what can they leverage to maybe go down a peg or 2 from Marvin? That's what they're deciding right now. But yeah, absolutely.
Like they'll get back to, their general team building philosophy after they hit on some blue chip wide receiver talent that they've really been posturing this roster to select, right? As far as how they let people walk and how who they didn't sign in free agency and who they haven't targeted on a trade market. And it's, it really feels like they want one of these big 3 guys. Is the Faithful, great show. Thank you so much. Is the Faithful 199 super chat.
He's a Vikings fan.
He is a Vikings fan,
He or
but we
she.
appreciate that. And yeah, this is just the open forum for everybody. We're
My
just
bad.
talking
That's
ball.
on me. I'm sorry.
We're just talking some ball. Aaron Gibson also is a Vikings fan, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Vikings fan here. Great show, guys. $2 super chat. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. You guys are always welcome here. Charlie Sinclair, you're trolling. Lad at 11, easy.
If we didn't know you were a sweetheart, Charlie, I would take offense to that. But Lad McConkey is going to be a first-round pick for some team. And again, 400 yards is just not my cup of tea. But, to each their own here. What is my cup of tea? Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass draft party a week from today, Bo Brock. We are fired up. And if you need to get set up, if you need to, be in a good headspace to rep PHNX Sports, become a diehard, go PHNX.com, pick up a free hat and or t-shirt like Bo, Southwest Bias, myself, the classic black brim hat. And also you're going to get access to everything on the website, articles free, 20% off future events, free shipping from the merchandise locker and more. Again, become a diehard. Exclusive member Discord. We're going to be posting on the Discord the night of the draft. I'm so fired up. We did a walkthrough earlier this week at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. 100+ people, free food, beverages, vibes, giveaways, and more. Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Very special time to be a Cardinal fan next week, whatever they do, Bo.
Yeah, whatever they do, it's going to be unbelievable. We were hanging out there just earlier this week, checking out the whole setup. It's going to be like we've done a draft party before. We had 4 Peaks last year, fantastic. The year before, we were in a downtown location, had a blast there. But taking things to a new level, and why not take it to a place that will show you what the next level is all about? Gila River Resorts and Casinos at Wild Horse Pass. I was just going to ask you, or what time are we getting there?
I think
we want to hang. We want to do some hang sessions.
3:30.
Yeah.
Draft. We won't go live on air that day until probably a little after 5 o'clock.
What about breaking news? Like we'll probably have to get live potentially, right?
Yeah. But our goal is if you're coming to the draft party, hanging, some snacks, some beverages, some vibes, 3:30 to 5, good 90 minutes. And then the way our set is, we're gonna be up on stanchions, facing the gang, 100+ people, max capacity, TVs with our broadcast, with ESPN, NFL Network, the whole nine. And so, yeah, every inch of the Cardinals draft is going to be covered and then some at the premier draft party. We're hoping to have some surprises too, so stay tuned.
Yeah. And we talked about the Schrager thing, right? The sky is blue, that if the Cardinals can pick at 4.
If Marvin's there for, like, that's their number one pick. like that. So like
you
we can
had
use that
source
now
for
as
a
an
long time.
analogy.
Yeah.
That's their guy. So you always talk about, Allbright talked about it earlier. They got to get their guy. That's their guy. It's been their guy. We told you in January. We told you in February. Like they like Joe Alt. They like some of these other prospects. They like Odunze. They worked out Nabers. Marvin is their guy. They've been talking and scouting him since last college football season. Gannon loves him. Okay. It's who can make us come off of 4 with our guy in mind. Because that's the difference, as well as you outlined with Minnesota and their fan base. The Cardinals have their guy. They have their J.J. McCarthy in-house with Marvin Harrison Jr. You have to call them, that being Ossenfort, and say, we know your guy is ready to rock and roll for you. Here is what we're prepared to offer you to move off of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's his house now. Let's do it one more time. Damon Dog, play that clip from Ossenfort one more time on his house analogy, because I think it bears repeating.
We've had talks with multiple teams, and multiple teams have checked in with us. And, I think the way I look at it is like, guys, I love my house. I love where I live, okay? My wife loves where we live. If all of a sudden there's a knock on my door and someone's going to offer me something, and I'm going to look and see what they're offering me. And if I open that up and it's something I'm not expecting, hey, Shannon, let's go, pack up, it's time to roll. Okay, so, I think, that happens beforehand. It happens on the clock. But, I think, different teams have different motivations, but we'll see how this one plays out next week.
I love Marvin Harrison Jr. I love my house. That's what he's saying. But if somebody comes over and says that they can give you, maybe 9/10 of your house plus a big fat stack of cash, you're going to consider that.
There's Monti Ossenfort who views it from, this is what's, if somebody's going to overwhelm me, it's what's best for my family. I'm going to take, you're going to pay me, money that I didn't even have in my wildest dreams for this home. And I'm willing to move because I'll go find another home and my family's going to have this extra money to do whatever we want with it. Right. We can help us retire. We can invest it, whatever. And then there's like the whole DeLine crew who are, you've got, big bad business coming in and we've got your land and we're eyeing it and we'll pay you all this money to get off it. And you're willing to sit in your home while they bring in the bulldozers and they're going to blow it up. Right. But you're willing to sit in there and that's fine. That's admirable. But Monti Ossenfort, he's thinking about the future of his family, what's best for his family. And it's tough to turn down that deal.
Are you willing to have blood on your hands, Bo? Because I'm going down with this house.
You are. Damon's out there. He's
Here
changing.
comes the wrecking ball. Damon's standing right there with his sign, his protesting sign. Look out! Get out of the way!
I feel like I actually feel better today than I did going into it.
Well,
I really do.
You've got an NFL insider like Benjamin Allbright saying
Peter Schrager as well.
He's leaning towards the Cardinals sticking and picking.
Monty trying to talk up, hey, you guys are going to need to offer a lot, kind of making me think that they're not really that close right now.
Well, I think you can check one box off today definitively, and that is Marv's their guy. They love Marvin. They want to take Marvin. But then you have to contextualize it from, is somebody going to make them offer them an offer that they can't refuse? That's basically what the territory we're in right now, which I think is good news for Hold the Line people. He understands the weight of Marvin Harrison Jr. and his impact. Adam H. 499, what's the Twitter etiquette at the draft party? Are we having spoilers or finding out from the commissioner? I usually like to stay off of Twitter, but I would say
there's a trade down. We're seeking out the details.
Yeah, I mean, you come to the draft party, you do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You have a good time. You be on your cell phone. You do what you want to do, Adam. Charlie Sinclair, $1.99. Hard to believe someone doesn't pay the price. It's always been my mindset. The fraudulent Vikings, when they're on the clock and they're looking down the barrel of, as Benjamin Allbright put it, Bo Nix, potentially third-round value to some teams. Third round for Bo Nix. Think about that. Or you can come up and get your guy at 4. The Vikings aren't going to just say, you know what, we just got to do it. We got to stomach it. We got to rip the Band-Aid off. We chickened out last year for Anthony Richardson. We're going to come up and get J.J. McCarthy. That's why I'm still of the mindset that Ossenfort will be leveraged into having an offer he can't refuse. He's not actively just trying to move the pick because he's desperate.
What do we think? How do you if you can put yourself in the shoes of the fan base from the team getting up the board, and you're a Vikings fan and you paid the price, you paid 3 firsts to come up for the ability to draft JJ McCarthy. What kind of headspace are you in?
As a Vikings fan,
Yeah.
physically ill. I mean,
But then think about the alternative. What's the alternative?
Well, I was just about to say, I think most Vikings fans that we see naively are not in the scope of how scouts and football people believe. Most Vikings fans watched Bo Nix and Michael Penix be good in college and say, well, if I have to give up less for that, they're going to translate to the NFL. NFL scouts and people who make this decision routinely for a living are telling you that Michael Penix and Bo Nix are not good enough.
Yeah.
So you can try to take one, or will take one at 11 or 23 and be excited about that. To many scouts and executives, you are lighting that pick on fire. That pick is worthless. You have a ceiling. You have a cap on how good that player is going to be. Whereas with McCarthy, it's the opposite. Young, untapped potential, mobile, wasn't asked to do a ton. That's what the Vikings are thinking. The Vikings, if they wanted Bo Nix or Michael Penix, would have just sat at 11, traded down, and took one of them. Kenny Pickett style, like the Steelers did. They would not have moved up to 23 to have to then talk themselves into Bo Nix or Michael Penix. Like, the Vikings are some of the most fraudulent people during this draft process.
Jesus. Let's flip to Denver so you can't roast Vikings fans anymore, or more so the organization. But
Bo Biden here in the chat, Vikings and Sam Darnold to match made in heaven. You really are. You reap what you sow. And if you're the Vikings, you deserve Sam Darnold. You thought arrogantly.
Somebody's chat name is Bo Biden. Is that my picture?
That's
on
right.
there?
Here it is.
That me?
That is you.
You arrogantly Johnny's tongue too.
You arrogantly thought that you were going to be able to flip the Cardinals 2-1s this year, is going to get it done. Welcome to the big leagues.
Let's talk about a Broncos deal. The Broncos, and I know I am very skeptical that they would be willing to part ways with a 24-year-old All-Pro premium position player, Patrick Surtain II. But if you're the Broncos fan and that they get that desperate, they pull that deal off.
You have to take it.
Take JJ McCarthy.
You have to take it.
I know, but what are you feeling as a Broncos fan? You hired Sean Payton. He cost your draft pick.
You sold your soul to Sean Payton.
You blow out Russell Wilson. You're absorbing that contract, that dead money, and the cost of getting probably the most unknown of the draft the quarterback prospects. You're to get the rights, you have to part ways with an All-Pro corner. That is a brutal pill to swallow.
Well, it's once upon a time, Rod Graves traded a second-round pick and a Pro Bowl corner in Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie for Kevin Cobb because the Cardinals were desperate. You might as well call them the Denver Paytons at that point. You have lost your identity as a franchise. You belong to Sean Payton now. If Sean Payton is allowed to do that, first of all, he's got a puppet GM that he didn't hire. The Walmart people gave him infinite money. You belong to Sean Payton now. If he's allowed to. If Patrick, first of all, he got rid of Jerry Jeudy for scraps. Cortland Sutton's holding out. Russell Wilson was cut. You're taking a huge dead cap hit. Might as well. That's why I think it's on brand for them. You might as well trade Patrick Surtain. You belong to Sean Payton, guys.
You tried to move on from the Vikings because he was roasting the Vikings too much, and then here he goes.
I almost want to just ask about the Raiders because I just want to hear the Raiders roast.
I don't have anything negative to say about it. Listen.
Giants.
I don't have.
Giants are the other realistic team.
Okay, let's talk about the Giants for a second. You gave Daniel Jones $80 million. Brian Daboll, you're trying to save your job. I don't know who their general manager is. I think he did a nice job recently. But you're in a position now in the NFC East where you have been irrelevant, a laughingstock since that vote situation with Odell Beckham and company. I know they made the playoffs last year. You basically have to remedy the Daniel Jones error that you made. You have to come up. So, again, the Giants came out today. Their general manager, anybody see this? Said, we don't need to take a QB. The fuck you don't. Have you seen your quarterback room? You know who else they got? They got Denver Broncos ex-QB. What's his name? Yeah, Drew Lock and Daniel Jones.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me right now, Daniel Jones after his knee exploded and Drew Lock as your combination without Saquon Barkley. Darren Waller, who you traded a third rounder for, retired. He's done playing football. That infrastructure is going to get you fired if you're Brian Daboll. So again, just say some of these things. Just say it out loud. Sam Darnold in a division with Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, and Jared Goff. You're done. You're fired, Kevin O'Connell. Sean Payton's not going to get fired because he has infinite money and infinite leverage. And then Daboll, like there's talk like Daboll wanted to get traded back to the Buffalo Bills. If Daboll likes J.J. McCarthy, they'll take J.J. McCarthy.
That was fun. That was a fun little exercise.
I don't have to say that about the Cardinals. They're in good shape. But like just some of these teams that feel like, oh, we have leverage. You have no leverage. You have no answers. Like you talk about
going into year 3 with the Broncos. It's like, okay, let's see what kind of chaos Sean Payton can create this offseason and see if it works.
Yeah, it's like, hey guys, your rosters are in middling states. I would argue the Broncos roster has gotten infinitely worse since the end of last year.
In the NFL. It's really the worst place to be in. I mean, it's somebody we are survivors of that, of having to endure just mid roster after mid roster with the idea of we're never in a rebuild. It's like, yeah, but if you're not in the rebuild and you're not contending, you're in football purgatory. It's you're either gonna maybe contend for a playoff spot this week or this year, or you're going to be in the top 10 in the draft. It's not a fun place to be.
I love this comment from our guy Merv. Giants fans on Twitter hyping up a Daniel Jones year 6 breakout, a year 6 breakout season.
Remember this was a real thing.
Oh, I know what you're about to say.
2022, where there were people that were saying that Daniel Jones was a better quarterback than Kyler Murray. There was at one point in the year 2022 of our Lord, people believed Daniel Jones was a better quarterback than Kyler Murray.
Sad. It's really sad when people are, brainwashed to that degree. Yeah. Here's what I'll say about the New York Giants. John Middlecoff, I thought, put it well. So I'm just going to steal this from him. The Giants, if you take a receiver, I'm hedging that receiver to not do well because of your quarterback situation. So it doesn't matter if you get Marv or Rome or Malik, who is getting them the football. Like, it doesn't matter who's playing wideout for you. Like, listen, I can talk myself.
Remember they drafted a high out of Tennessee?
He was a great prospect out of Tennessee.
He did nothing because they had the worst quarterback, some of the worst quarterbacks playing in the league last year, even with Daniel Jones.
Say the same thing about the Broncos. Say the same thing about the Vikings. Vikings have 2 first-round. They have the best receiving core of the NFL. Hawkinson comes back. Does not matter. Mm-hmm. You're not winning anything. And if your franchise, listen, I don't like J.J. McCarthy. I'd be sick if my franchise was trying to talk me into McCarthy for 3 1s. But if you trust Kevin O'Connell, Kyle Shanahan disciple, if you trust Sean Payton, quarterback guru, and Daboll, who's a good QB mind, if they say that we love J.J. McCarthy, you have no choice. You have to. Listen, go look at the outlook of the QB situation next year in the draft and then report back. Kindly report back. Sure, George Sanders has a list of about 6 teams, and guess what, Giants, you ain't on it. Hey, guess what, Broncos, I don't think you're on it either. RK is going to come after me. They're probably on it.
I feel like he would go to both those teams.
The Giants?
The king of New York, Shadur Sanders.
I mean, he should want to go to the number 1 media market. I mean, it's just you're going to get the bag.
Yes, sports hero. The Giants do have Isaiah Simmons, who can play multiple positions for them. So maybe try him at signal caller. Just put Simmons back there.
Is that what's going to unlock him? I never got the details on the Isaiah Simmons contract
because they weren't made public because they were so embarrassing. That's why.
He's making. He's going to have a $2 million cap hit. He's going to be making $1.2 million next season.
People came on the show in the comments and told us that he was going to break the bank and that it was going to be a huge mistake for the Cardinals. Well, he plays off-ball linebacker, strike 1. Strike 2, he's not very good at that position. And strike 3,
doesn't want to play it.
Yes, and he's not into the grind.
Ace.
Yeah,
that's a special teams.
There's
ace
a
contract.
guy that's buying into special teams.
It's the third facet of the game.
We wish him well.
No, we don't. He spurned this podcast twice. He committed to do this podcast twice, and then same day, the day of, an hour before, said nope, no thanks. So,
hey, did you see that Steve Kime's doing draft coverage again this year as an analyst?
I did with Jay Glazer. Poor Jay. Come on. Subject him to that. Fox Sports, maybe?
Fox Sports.
Oh, man, I really love that pick right there. Who's the best off-ball linebacker? The kid from
probably Payton Wilson.
Yeah, Payton Wilson. Let's get him in the top 20. I can't even do a Steve Keim voice. I'm sorry.
It's not good, but look, it's better than the actual analysis.
But like, seriously, you sat there today and you're like, this guy knows what he's doing.
He does. He's in complete control. He's in complete control.
We're in really good shape, guys.
In an inexact science, he's in complete control. He's ready to pivot any direction. He's not going to be blindsided by anything. Cardinals got a good GM.
Everybody's talking about like the Cardinals are going to own this draft regardless. They're going to end up. You're going to end up with the Cardinals having an A+ grade for this draft come Monday, Sunday night, Monday morning. They aced last year, and they're going to ace this year. And you start stringing drafts together like that, you become a contender. You're a winner.
Arizona Animal saying the PHNX curse is real. I hope for Jonathan Gannon's sake, I hope that's not the case.
Curse? I think when you snub us, it's real. Think about some of the players we've had on this podcast. Michael Wilson, stud.
Greg
Jonathan
Dortch.
Gannon, stud.
Greg Dortch only saw his role expand.
Greg Dortch had a podcast on this network, and now he's the starting slot receiver. Coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. Trey McBride's been on this podcast.
Michael Wilson, breakout.
James Conner was on this podcast last January. Had a career year. Yeah.
He's been on twice.
We just need Sweet Baby K1 to agree to come on. We've asked his agent, for those of you who don't know. And Kyler just, he doesn't do a lot of interviews. So we respect his privacy.
Barring any breaking news, we'll be back with you all tomorrow. Tomorrow, Friday, 4:30.
The last Fan Mock Friday.
Man, get your mocks in. Are we just going to go crazy?
I want to see some crazy shit tomorrow. I want to see people.
Let's do bold. Bold.
Yeah, bold. No
draft,
chalk.
right?
No chalk. Players involved. You want to take Marv. Do what you want to do.
You take Marv, get up the board with 27 or something.
Yeah, let's do some crazy stuff. This is the last Fan
Want to
Mock
get nuts?
Friday.
Let's get nuts.
That's right, Keats. That's right, Michael Keaton. One way to my
If
heart.
you're diehard, obviously that helps. You get in the member Discord. We'll grab that baby, put it right on air. Drop it. Of course, our Twitter mentions it's over. It's overrun by mock drafts. Probably easiest way. DM it to us.
We'll do our best.
Yeah.
Low blow, Charlie.
He snubbed ever. It wasn't specific to this pod, so we will let that slide.
Pretty
But
personal. at the
he did
time.
his top 30 visit. He did his top 30 here in Chicago.
And then he's talking about this podcast, though.
Johnny, you're going to tell me that when we were in Indianapolis that fine morning that you didn't felt like it was a little personal?
No, because I'm going to tell you right now, had we not just interviewed Jonathan Gannon, I would have been mortified. I would have been
For
sick.
sure.
But we had just interviewed Jonathan Gannon for 25 minutes.
But you needed to lock eyes with MHJ, and you didn't get the chance to do that.
We got there early. They got there. Bo and the company got there a little earlier. They let your sweet baby JV sleep in just a little longer. And then I squeezed my way up, all 5'6" of me up to the front of the line, next to my guy Greg Braggs Jr. And I was waiting, and then they slipped in the card.
It's an all-time moment. The video on Johnny's Twitter where the poor guy, the poor messenger who comes and changes the nameplate out, and it goes from Jaden Daniels or whoever was before him.
That was brutal.
to Drake May. It was supposed to be Marvin Harrison Jr. He just puts Drake May's there.
The guy's like,
there.
I don't know what to say.
And then Johnny goes,
not here.
What?
Johnny was about to jump the table at that guy.
He was.
That's like part of me is like, is Marv even real? He's an enigma. I've never seen him. I don't know really what he looks like outside of like YouTube highlights and on my television. Like I need to see him in person.
Hopefully you see him here for the next decade, catching passes from Kyler Murray. Hopefully it's happened. We're going to find out now. Less than a week. The Cardinals probably at this point close to being on the clock. What is it? Is it you put the team on the clock? They'll wear it out.
5:30. Yeah,
They'll put it in Caleb Williams.
We're struggling.
We're
this time next
probably
week.
we're
big time
probably two
struggling.
picks in at this point.
We're big time struggling this time next week. We're not doing well.
Got the sweats going.
It's on air.
Damon's on like his
Damon, take over. Britton, take over.
It's gonna be unreal. You're not gonna want to miss the draft coverage. Marvin,
You gotta like this video. Get this video to 500 likes for your boys.
Like there's 530 in the chat right now.
Done deal.
Just hit the like. There it is. Thank you to everybody tuned in. Fantastic, fun show. We'll have more takeaways from the presser today. Look for a couple shorts and stuff coming up here on YouTube or on PHNX Sports here on YouTube. Subscribe. Hit that like button. Have a great rest of your Thursday. We'll talk to you all mañana right here, PHNX Cardinals.
We all silly like the mayor.